We're okay?
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, Shakach, thank you very much. Okay, good evening, everyone. So we're holding about less than 2 weeks to Pesach. So I want to discuss a few halachas, depending on what we have time for. The first halacha I want to discuss, which is a halacha which is pertinent this year and other years too. It's the halacha, some specifics regarding reciting Havdalah at the Seder. Now, it's not that rare because in Chutz La'aretz it's not that rare because every once in a while Pesach falls, the first day of Pesach falls out on Shabbos, so that the second Seder is Motzai Shabbos, and you have to say Havdalah at the Seder. What's more rare is that that the first day of Pesach itself is Motzai Shabbos, that Erev Pesach is Shabbos, and the first day is Sunday as it is this year. So this year, of course, even in Eretz Yisrael, even in Eretz Yisrael, they're going to be reciting Havdalah at the Seder. Now, in general, we over the course of the year, also there are other times that a Yontif falls out on Motzai Shabbos. So we know that when we have to recite Havdalah on the night of a Yontif, and we have a mitzvah saying Kiddush and a mitzvah saying Havdalah, so we do them the two over one kos. Even though typically there's a rule, Ein Nosin Mitzvahs Chavilas, you're really supposed to you're supposed to do mitzvahs, each mitzvah give it its own time, its own focus. And l'mashal, when you at a Shever Brachas Suda, whether at the Chassan itself or at during the week Shever Brachas, when you bench and Birchas Hamazon and Shever Brachas, we use two separate kosos. The Mavarich is Mavarich over one kos, and then we pass around another kos for the kos of Shever Brachas, because it's an Indian to use separate kos. But by Kiddush and Havdalah, they're both the same idea, both ideas of Kedusha Shabbos, Kedusha Yontif. Havdalah also has to do with Kedusha Shabbos, with your Mekachea B'Knisaso, Mekachea B'Tziyaso. So Memela, it's considered all one Indian, and it's done on one kos. So we do what's called Yak Nahaz, which means we make a bracha. It's an acronym for Yayin. First the bracha Bar Pri Hagafin, Kiddush. Then the bracha of Ner, bracha on Bari Ma'ori Ha'esh, which maybe we'll get back to, but just in a nutshell, you don't light a separate Havdalah candle. You make Bari Ma'esh over the Yontif Neros. Havdalah, the special bracha for Havdalah, which the nusach is different than on a regular Motzai Shabbos. It's different than even the Chasim is different. You don't say Baruch Atah Hashem Amadlu B'Kodesh L'Chol. In the Chasim you say Baruch Hashem Amadlu B'Kodesh L'Kodesh. And Zman, which is Shechianu. So that's a Yak Nahaz. Yain Kiddush Ner, Navdol Zman. There's no bracha b'samim. Okay, now, what I want to focus on is the following shaila. Let's say a person makes an error, makes a mistake, he forgets. And he sits down to the Seder, and he's all into it, and he has he's looking at Haggadah, but the Haggadah Kiddush is bolded, and then Havdalah is like sort of like in less bold letters, because most years you don't say it, most of the time you don't say it. And he forgets, and he says a robust kid Bar Pri Hagafin, Kiddush, Shechianu, and he drinks the kos. Now, of course, this is also the first of the Dalet kosos. It's not just Kiddush and Havdalah. All the Dalet kosos were nisaking to be on some mitzvah. The first kos is the kos of Kiddush, second one Berachas Hamazon, third one is second one the kos on the Chasim of the Haggadah, the third one Berachas Hamazon, the fourth one on Halal. So he's drinking the first kos. He reclines and drinks the first kos to be it's his kos of Kiddush, Havdalah, and his first kos of the Dalet kosos. But not Havdalah. He forgot Havdalah. So it's Kiddush and the first kos. He forgot Havdalah. He drank the kos, forgot Havdalah. So now. And then he remembers at some point later. At some point later, he comes to his attention, he did not make Havdalah. So what should he do? So the Shulchan Aruch addresses this in Tafayin Gimel Sif Aleph. And the Shulchan Aruch says that if he does not remember until he began the Haggadah, then don't make Havdalah right then. Continue the Haggadah till the end of, till the Gal Yisrael. Go through the entire Haggadah with all the midrashim, it's everything, and the beginning of Halal till you get to the bracha, the end Lefichach and Nechayovim, which and you end with Baruch Hashem Gal Yisrael, and you drink the second kos. So at that point, say Havdalah, say a Bari Pri Hagafin on the second kos, and then say the bracha of Ner and Havdalah, and then drink the kos. So instead of the first kos being Kiddush and Havdalah, the second kos is Haggadah and Havdalah. Okay, that's if you began the Haggadah. But the implication is Now, the implication is that if you remembered before you started the Haggadah, there's time in between Kiddush till you. Starting the Haggadah is certainly from Avodah Mayinu, maybe even from Manishtana, but not before that. There's time before that. When you have Karpas Yachatz, there's some time. The implication is if you remember during that time, then you would make Havdalah right away. So let's analyze that. So the Mishnah says, well, why is it that once you start the Haggadah you don't make Havdalah? Why is that? So this is because if you make Havdalah, you have to drink the kos, and it's not proper to drink a kos during the Haggadah. You're not supposed to drink anything during the Haggadah. You're not supposed to eat or drink during the Haggadah. Once you start the Haggadah, till you get to Motzi Matzah, you're not supposed to eat or drink. So that's why you don't make Havdalah. Okay, very good. But if you didn't start the Haggadah yet, there should be no problem. And for the Sfardim, that's taka the halacha. For the Sfardim, the halacha is that as long as they remember any time before they start the Haggadah, they should fill another kos and make Havdalah. But for the Ashkenazim, it's not so pashut. And why? What's the difference? The difference is that the Ashkenazim, we follow the minig of the Ramah in Siman Tafai and Dalid, that we recite a bracha, a separate paragraph on each one of the four koses. The Sfardim follow the Mechaber. They only say a bracha on the first kos, and that covers the second one. Then they have to make a new bracha on the third kos because they just benched. So they make a bracha on the third kos, and that covers the fourth one. So they only make Bari Priya Gavan twice. For kos number 1 and covers 2, and then for kos number 3 and covers 4. So if a Sfardi forgets Havdalah, and he has to fill another kos now and make Havdalah, he could do so without saying Bari Priya Gavan, because his Bari Priya Gavan that he said already in the first kos is still active. It's still an active bracha. It's waiting for him to drink the second kos in another hour or two when he gets to Gal Yisrael. So he could drink a kos of Havdalah as well without making Bari Priya Gavan. So he just fills the second kos, makes the bracha on the Ner and the bracha of Havdalah, and drinks the kos, and that's fine.
But didn't say there's an issue of eating or drinking in between?
No, I said only one. No, once you start the Haggadah, I said. I'm talking now, if you remember, before you started the Haggadah. You haven't started the Haggadah.
Is that an issue even by an Ashkenaz?
To eat or drink during the Haggadah is an issue, yes. But
saying before.
No, but not before. No, before there's no problem eating and drinking. But for Bnei Ashkenaz, there is the following problem. That is that for Bnei Ashkenaz, if you're going to say Havdalah now on a new kos, you're going to have to start with the Bari Priya Gavan, because we make a separate bracha on each one of the Daled koses, which means the bracha that we made on the first kos was only for the first kos. Once you finish drinking the first kos, that bracha is finished. If for some reason you're going to drink more wine now, it requires a new bracha. So if you're going to fill a kos of Havdalah and say Havdalah, you're going to have to start with Bari Priya Gavan. So you say, well, so what? So start with Bari Priya Gavan. What's the problem? The problem is there's an isser, or there's a concept called you shouldn't do anything which is nira kamosav ala kosos. You're supposed to drink 4 koses at the Seder, and you're not supposed to drink 5 koses, or to give the impression that there are 5 koses or 6 koses. Nira kamosav ala kosos. So for a Sephardi that's not making another bracha, it's not nira kamosav. He just fills a cup and drinks it for Havdalah. That's not considered an issue. The issue is if you make another bracha on the kos, then it's nira kamosav ala koses. One of the reasons why we make a separate bracha, why does the Ramah hold to make a separate bracha on the second kos, for example? One of the reasons Gufa is because it's like a separate mitzvah. It's a koshel bracha, so you make a separate bracha on it. It's one of the reasons. So if you're going to make a bracha on another kos now, albeit that's for Havdalah, it might be nira kamosav ala kosos. So l'chara, there's a svara, says the Mishnah, there's a svara that an Ashkenazi, if he forgot Havdalah, even if he remembers, but he already drank Kiddush, and then he says, oh, I didn't make Havdalah, even if he did start the Haggadah, even if he remembers as soon as he puts down the kos from Kiddush, he puts down the kos, and he says, I didn't make Havdalah, or somebody tells him, weren't we supposed to say Havdalah? So even right away at that point, l'chara, there's already an issue, and he should wait, and perhaps he should wait and not make Havdalah. So he shouldn't be near kamosav lakoses. And this is how the Shulchan Aruch Harav paskins, that don't make Havdalah. Wait, don't make Havdalah yet. Wait till when? Wait till the second kos. But so problem is the Biur Halacha raises that's all fine if you remember, not immediately. You remember, let's say you already ate karpas. And karpas, and you're holding by yachatz, or you're about to start the manishtan or whatever, and then you remember. So you say, oh, we didn't make Havdalah, we didn't start the Haggadah yet, but you know what? Wait, we're Ashkenazim. If we're gonna make Havdalah now, we have to make a Bar Pirkov. Don't do it. Wait for the second course. But if you remember, before you karpas, frek the bir halacha, everybody knows you're not allowed to eat before Havdalah, any Motzei Shabbos, before you make Havdalah, you're not allowed to eat or drink anything except for water. And this is before in Shulchan Aruch and Hilchos Shabbos, Siman Reish, Tzadik Tes, Sif Aleph. You can't eat or drink anything but drink water. So now what do you do? If you remember right away after you made a kiddush and that you didn't make Havdalah and you didn't eat karpas yet, so now what do you do? If you're not going to make Havdalah, you make the second course. So, but how are you going to eat karpas? Elamai. So make Havdalah, but then Nirikamos Lakosos. So what do you do? So if you're not sure what to do, you're in good company because the Bir Halacha is not sure. The Bir Halacha is not sure what to do. He leaves it Tzarachian. The Shulchan Aruch Harav that he brings says even in that case, don't make Havdalah. Wait, you can eat karpas without Havdalah. Don't make Havdalah. Push it off and eat karpas without Havdalah. But the Bir Halacha says, why? Well, because the Nira Kamos Alakosas is questionable. It doesn't. It's not Medina. The Gemara is brought as he brings in the Bir Halacha. It comes. He says, "Lo nizker b'chol haposkim rak b'divrei Ravya umashmos hatur." I'm sorry. Mashmos hatur de la resh lo chashin klal hazeh. Maybe it's close to Rishon. It said, okay, so it's not so pashut. The whole idea of Nira Kamos Alakosas is that this Isser is not so pashut. And especially here, as he explains in the Sharat Tziyun, everybody sees you're making Havdalah. Why would a person think it's near? Oh, there must be 5. Look, must be 5 kostas at the Seder because he made 5. Well, no, I mean the second one was Havdalah. He made a mistake. So he made Havdalah. So it's not even so much it's not so much Nira Kamos Alakosas. If you would just say, you know what, that wine was so good, I want another cup. But I have to make another Bar Pirkov because I wasn't planning on it. That's you fill another cup and you make a bracha and drink it. That's Nira Kamos Alakosas. But if you're making Havdalah over the coast, it's not. It's Nira Kishachach Havdalah, which is the case. So it says the Bir Halacha. The whole problem Nira Kamos Alakosas is not so clear. Eating before Havdalah is very clear. So Tzarachian Ladina. Tzarachian Ladina. What you should do? He leaves a trap. And Rabbi Shataka Paskin says. Rav David Statzal brings in his Haggadah Kol Dodi. Rav David Feinstein brings in the Kol Dodi Haggadah. That Rav Moshe Paskin that not like the Shulchan Aruch Harav. If you remember before Karpas, you have to make Havdalah right then. Make Havdalah right then. Don't worry about Nira Kamos Alakosas. Make Havdalah so you can eat the Karpas without eating for Havdalah.
Why do Relach because of the Shulchan Aruch Harav? Not to say the halacha that we should make that.
What? So why is the Bir Halacha mistapik?
Yeah,
probably because Shulchan Aruch is not like that, and he acknowledges that there are 2 considerations here. Maybe it's not so pashut, but he feels one is stronger. But the Shulchan Aruch Harav is machmir. Maybe you could say that I can't make Havdalah. Let's say a person. No, there are dinim. There are times that a person eats before Havdalah. If you can't make Havdalah, then you can eat before Havdalah. For example, let's say a person has no wine, so it's a shayla. Even if he has no wine Motzei Shabbos, but he anticipates getting in the morning, his taka is supposed to fast. You're not supposed to eat till the morning if you're a healthy person, and not eating won't harm you. So shayla, how long you have to wait till Sunday evening, till Sunday chatzos? Some say only. You surely have to wait till Tuesday. You don't say, well, I can make Havdalah till Tuesday, so I'm going to wait. Maybe I'll get Havdalah. And Tuesday morning, he still hasn't eaten anything. No, you definitely don't wait that long. So there's a certain point where if you can't make Havdalah, so maybe the Shulchan Aruch tells you can't make Havdalah. You can't make Havdalah now, and you have a mitzvah to eat karpas, so go ahead and do it. Go ahead and eat karpas. Go ahead and eat. Okay. But the Bir Halacha is misupik. And Ramesh Paskins, no. Make Havdalah. If you realize your mistake after you ate karpas, then you should wait for the second course. But if you remember your mistake before you ate karpas, the Ramesh Paskins, you do it later. So we have the Shulchan Aruch Paskins to wait. Ramesh Paskins not to wait if it's before karpas, and the Bir Halacha leaves it as Tzarachian Ladina. Now, so I saw a tshuva from the Be'er Moshe, the Debetzina Rav. I saw it originally quoted in the Piskei Tshuvos, and I looked it up. Not now, I'll admit, but sometime when I first looking into this. The tshuva is in Chelek Ches Siman Kuf Pei Vav. He makes the following hachra. He says like this: there's a halacha in Hilchos Shabbos, Hilchos Havdalah, that we know you're supposed to say Havdalah in davening as well. Motzei Shabbos, right? We say on a regular weeknight, we say Motzei Shabbos, we say Atochon Antonu. And even on Yontif, there's a paragraph when Motzei Shabbos is Yontif. There's a paragraph Atod Yenu Hashem Elokeinu, etc. So we make Havdalah b'tefillah, and then we make Havdalah kos. Now, even though you made Havdalah b'tefillah, you're still not allowed to make Havdalah. You're still not allowed to eat before Havdalah kos. But what's the din if you forgot Havdalah in Shemon Esrei? You forgot, and you finish Shemon Esrei, whatever, you forgot to make Havdalah. So the din is you don't repeat Shemon Esrei, but go home and make sure you make Havdalah kos. If you make another mistake the same night and you end up eating before Havdalah kos, then the din is now you have to go back and repeat Shemon Esrei. It's an interesting halacha. You daven in shul, you forgot Tochen Atayim, you say you go with the Rav, I forgot Tochen Atayim. He says, no, don't repeat. Do I repeat Shemon Esrei? No, don't repeat Shemon Esrei. And just don't forget when you get Havdalah home. Of course. He comes home. His wife happened to be baking some. There's a simcha that night, so she's baking. She promised the Baal Simcha baking a cake for the Shever Brachas that night. Oh, that smells really good. Oh, you want? I have a little bit left. I made a little one for us too. He goes and takes a bite. Now he took a bite of that cake. The halach is now he has to go back and daven Shemon Esrei over again. It's like a trivia question. Say, how could you have a person makes one bracha and it's mechayiv him to make 19 more? That one bracha bar meimazonos on the cake. Well, it's really the bite of the cake, but. Now he's chayav to make 19 brachas. He has to daven Shemon Esrei again. What is that? Chametz on Pesach. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So if you eat before Havdalah, then you have to. And you forgot in Shemon Esrei. This is only if you forgot in Shemon Esrei. You forgot Havdalah Shemon Esrei, and you mistakenly ate before Havdalah kos. Now you have to repeat Shemon Esrei. So says the Debetzina Rav, if the person said Havdalah in Shemon Esrei like he should have, Atodiyenu, then you know what? He should do like the Shulchan Aruch Harav. Don't even though he hasn't eaten karpas yet, and he remembers he forgot Havdalah. Don't make Havdalah. Follow Shulchan Aruch Harav. Eat your karpas without Havdalah, and you'll make Havdalah at the second course. But if you didn't say Havdalah in Shemon Esrei, then if you're going to go ahead and eat the karpas, now you're going to have to get up and daven Shemon Esrei over again. It won't be 19 brachas, it'll only be 7, but even so. So in that case, if the person who realizes he forgot Havdalah kos also forgot Havdalah Shemon Esrei, and he realizes now before karpas, don't get up, tell everybody, excuse me, I need to walk out for a couple of minutes or whatever, and go daven Shemon Esrei, and then come back. But yeah, I forget if he went towards when he does Shemon Esrei, but he says then make Havdalah before karpas. This is what he says. Now, there's something I don't understand about that tshuva. I don't know if you're thinking the same thing, but something I never quite figured out. It doesn't seem to add up to me. Why not? Because he already has to repeat Shemon Esrei. He already made Kiddush. We're talking about a person that made Kiddush, and he obviously drank the first kos. He can't say, oh, he was Yotze Kiddush with somebody else. No, it's Pesach night. That means he was Yotze Kiddush. He drank the first kos. So he drank the first kos already. So if he forgot Havdalah Shemon Esrei, he anyway has to daven again. It's finished. It's over. He already he already ate before he drank. The eating or drinking is the same thing. He drank before Havdalah. So you say, well, and he forgot Havdalah and davening. So you say, well, maybe a Kiddush is different because it's not just stam drinking; it's a mitzvah. Well, maybe, but then I'm not sure why karpas wouldn't be the same. It's also not stam. But anyway, also Rosh Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, Mefurish, at least in Shmir Shabbos Kilchas, is quoted that even in this case, where a person, any Yontif night, person forgot the Totiyenu, went home, made Kiddush, forgot Havdalah, drank the Kiddush wine, he has the daven Shemon Esrei again. So, maybe, Debetzin doesn't have to hold it with Rosh Zalman, but if he doesn't hold like him L'Gabe Kiddush, then I don't know why karpas would make a difference. Pashtus is, once he drank Kiddush, he anyway have to daven again. So why would that be the Hachra? Unless I'm thinking now, as we're saying it, maybe he holds in the Chanami. Of course he has to daven again. But even so, if let's say he did daven again already, and now he eats karpas, have to daven another time? No, he won't daven. Right? He remembered after Kiddush that he forgot Havdalah Shemon Esrei, and he just drank Kiddush. So he gets up and daven Shemon Esrei, and he presumably says V'todiyenu. I mean, that's the whole point. He's got it. He's got to say it. It's not just a mitzvah daven again. It's daven, say Havdalah in Shemon Esrei. So now, if he sits down and eats karpas without Havdalah kos, he doesn't have to daven again. This time he said Havdalah b'tefillah. So that one. So I don't understand. I don't understand his psak. I actually don't understand the cheshbon. Why should that make a difference Why should whether or not you said Havdalah Shemona Esrei make a difference? So, what I would think is, I don't know, I've said this over a number of times. I don't think anybody was ever that I call ever explained it in a way that I could understand it. By the way, this halacha is in Reish Sadi Daled, the halacha that you've made two mistakes. You have to read that again. It's Aleph. So l'chara, it would seem that that the din should be that the Pesach Be'er Mishnah understanding. It would seem to be that if you remember it after Karpas, then for sure you should continue the Seder and the Kabbalah at the end, at the second course. And if you remember before Karpas, so since the Mishnah Berurah is not Machriya, but he leans heavily towards that you should make Havdalah right then, and Rav Moshe is Machriya, but you should have Havdalah right then. So that would be the halacha that we recommend, that you should make Havdalah right then. An exception to this perhaps would be a case where the Ashkenazi is like the Sephardi. Dahainu. Let's say there's a different shaila. Any Seder night, nothing to do with Moshe Shabbos. Any Seder night, you have to recline, right? You have to recline when men have to do Haseba when they drink the Daled Kossos. So what happens if you drink the Daled Kossos without Haseba? Do you have to repeat? So it depends. The third and fourth kos, working backwards, you for sure don't repeat. If you drink it without Haseba, for sure don't repeat, because there's a machlokas rishonim if Bizman Hazeh Haseba is really essential or not. Well, the whole idea of a seba is that you're supposed to show you, demonstrate that you're a ben charin. You're a ben charin. But a ben charin doesn't recline now, at least not in our countries. I mean, people that are, bnei charin, they eat their meal sitting straight. They don't recline. So it's machlokas rishonim if there's still a mitzvah seba. So if you ate matzah and you forgot to do a seba, you got to do it again. But if you drank the third or fourth kos without a seba, you don't do it over because of this problem. We don't want it to be near a kamosa lakosos, right? So we rely on the shita that says you without a seba. If it's the second kos, then you have to do it again, because when you made the bracha bar prigaf on the second kos, that anyway was a bracha that's active and functional until you bench, because you're supposed to drink wine during the meal. At every yontif meal, including the Seder, you're supposed to be kovei the sud al hayayin. Meaning, besides, you think you had enough wine of Daled Kossos, now you're supposed to have a cup of wine also during the Seder, during the Suda, not with the bracha, no, forget it. The bracha that you made on the second kos will cover that wine, but you're supposed to drink wine during the Suda, because you're supposed to, the mitzvah of Simcha of Yontif is part of the mitzvah to drink yayin, basar v'yayin, especially yayin. Some say basar is not as important as when we don't have basar kachim, but yayin you're supposed to drink. So the bracha you made, Ber Pri Hagafen, is still functional. So if you forgot to be masiv during the second kos, you have to repeat it right away without a bracha. Just fill the kos again and re-drink it with haseba. That's okay. What about the first kos? So the first kos, the din is that if you just drank it without thinking anything and you weren't masiv, then you go on. You don't repeat it, because it's just like the third or fourth. We don't want, because if you'd have to repeat it, you'd have to make a bracha. But if you remembered when you drank the first kos, the Mishnah Berurah says best thing is to make a t'nai, either verbalize or think, that in the event that I forget to be masiv, I want my bar pri hagafen to cover the wine that I'll have afterwards, the makeup kos. You should have that in mind before you make kiddush. So you're saying, well, once you have that in mind, obviously you're not going to forget. Well, it's not really true, because you have that in mind at the beginning of Kiddush. By the time you get to the end of the Kiddush, sometimes out of rote, you just drink it and you forgot already. But okay, so Mishnah Berurah says, if you had a t'nai in mind that if I should forget to be masiv, then I want this bracha to continue and until I start the Haggadah. Then you could drink another kos, and you're supposed to drink another kos and be masiv. Drink another kos. So the same thing would be true by Havdalah. If you had a mind before you drank the first kos, in the event that I forget to be masiv or whatever, if I forget, I guess the time would have to be in the event that I forget to make Havdalah, then I want the bar pri hagafen to cover the next kos that I'll fill for Havdalah. So then you're like a Sephardi that you can make Havdalah without a bracha. Okay, you probably won't forget then. So okay, it's good. So that's the goal. We're not here to forget. A lot of halacha, an awful lot of halacha, and all over is dedicated to what to do if you did something. How how to make up for how to correct your mistakes. There's a lot of things in halakha, especially in davening and brachas. There's a lot about but the goal is not to make mistakes, and the goal is to try to do it right the first time. Follow in the Haggadah and maybe put a little post-it note or something by Havdalah or something, but to make sure to make Havdalah. But in the event that you do forget, so I think we've covered the halacha pretty much of what how you should proceed.
What's the reason why the Ramas is making a daven on every page?
Well, there are two reasons. One reason I mentioned because each kos is like a separate mitzvah, is a separate chelik of the mitzvah, so it's a separate kosher bracha, so you make a bracha. The other, as far as there's a shaila, the Haggadah might be a hefsek, because you're really, like we said before, you're not supposed to drink during the Haggadah. You're not supposed to eat a drink. So it's sad to say that it's mamash a hefsek, because you made a bracha every gafin, then you entered a tkufa when you couldn't drink. So it's a hefsek. So there's a sad. Say again?
For the fourth cup, that wouldn't be a reason.
That wouldn't be a reason for the fourth cup. Okay, but the reason for the fourth cup, the truth is, after the third cup, you're not supposed to drink anyway, because you're certainly not wine, because you're supposed to, shalom yishaker, you want to be able to finish the seder properly, and it's after the afikomen. By the time you drink the third cup, you finish the afikomen, so you're allowed to drink the third or fourth cup, but you're not supposed to drink extra wine. So really, you're not supposed to drink the wine then also, not because of the Haggadah, but okay. Another discussion which is the Seder every year, and that is a way to make achilas matzah a little bit easier, a little bit more doable, and to make sure that you can fulfill the mitzvah, eat the right shear and the right zman. Some people have difficulty with it. Matzahs tend to be a little bit drier than the average piece of bread you're eating during the year, and the amount you're eating might be a little bit more than you're normally would be eating, and in a short amount of time. So, Shaila is there a way that you could use any form of oral lubrication while you're eating the matzah? So there really is. Now, the Mishnah Berurah discusses the idea of dipping matzah into a liquid. Now, of course, people that don't eat kibrachs can't do that. They can't dip the matzah into liquid. But if you do eat kibrachs, so then the Mishnah Berurah says that you could dip your matzah into liquid. Now, the truth is, he says, I'm just looking if I wrote down the Maramakim here in the Mishnah Berurah. Let's see, to have it right here. But he says that technically, even into mashka with a flavor, like even into wine or something, if you're just dipping it, if you're shara it to soak it, that for sure you shouldn't do in anything but water. And even in water, that's only for people that have, cholim or zkenim that really have difficulty. They can't chew matzah very easily or whatever it is, and they have a real difficulty. They won't be able to become the mitzvah unless it's mamash shruya, unless it's soaked and softened significantly. But even the people that are Baruch Hashem able to eat normally, but they're still allowed to dip the matzah and certainly into water, but even into shamash. But let's just stick with water. Let's talk about water or unflavored seltzer. So you're allowed to dip the matzah in a little bit. Or a number of poskim say you're allowed to take a sip water, or seltzer while you're eating matzah. This is there's a sefer called on the Haggadah called Halayla Hazeh, which is by the mechaber of the sefer V'zos HaBracha. If you've seen on the sefer, very good sefer in brachas, V'zos HaBracha. He has a sefer on the Haggadah and a sefer on Hilchos Leil Seder, and he brings there from Chaim Pinchas Steinberg that you're allowed to sip water during the achilas matzah. In the Haggadah Shel Pesach with Pesach of Rav Shlomo Zalman, which came out in Tafshin Samach Daled on page 300, he brings there that in the name of Rav Shlomo Zalman that lishros matzah rega echad bilvad, to soak the mitzvah for just one moment, the matzah for just one moment in order to make it easy to chew is mutter gam lechatchila af lemi she'eino zaken achola. To dunk the matzah in for a short amount of time is mutter for anyone. It says umispar shanim shuatzman came for a number of years. Rav Shlomo Zalman himself did that. And there's no problem as long as you don't leave it in the water for a long time. And he says another eitzah lahachzik tzas mayim b'peh, to leave some water in your mouth while you're eating, which also makes the chewing easier. This comes from the Sefer Madani Shlomo, page Yud Beis, which is by Rabbi Fried, Rabbi Chmiel Fried, the Rosh Kollel in Dallas, who was very close to Shlomo Zalman. in the Haggadah from Rabbi Yasha, which came out a couple of years later, Tafshin Samach Vav, on page 26, it also says that you're allowed to dunk the matzah, for a short time, if it makes it easier. If you'll have difficulty eating, otherwise you're allowed to dunk it. But he says to drink with it, you should not do. Now it doesn't explain there why it's worse to take a little sip while you're eating as opposed to dunking the matzah. Maybe during that mitzvah chila you shouldn't be machnas anything else into the pat. If you dip the matzah in, so then that becomes like part of the matzah. But eating and drinking at the same time, maybe else. So he says you shouldn't drink. But as I said before, Steinberg is quote in Steinberg's Haros for Pesach says that it is okay to sip, and also as Shlomo Zalman says you could have water in your mouth at least while you're eating. So this is an eitzah. I personally find it's a very useful eitzah by the Afikomen. Usually by Motzi Matzah or Hashem at that point, able to do it without any problem. But by Afikomen, usually after the whole meal and everything, and now the Afikomen has to be in Alasova, and it usually is Alasova by that point. Sova means you're somewhat satiated, not Chas V'Shalom Achila Gasa, but so at that point, I sometimes find that getting the matzah down is a little bit hard, and the idea of using a little bit of water is very useful. So that's a practical nakuda to share with the Elam. And okay, so we have some time for another point. Another point I just want to discuss is the bracha, going back now to the beginning of the Seder, the bracha of Shechiyanu. The bracha of Shechiyanu has to be recited at the Seder, like every Yom Tif, al Kedushas Hayom, every Yom Tif. Even Yom Kippur, when there's no Suda, but we make a bracha on the Kedushas Hayom, certainly the Shalosh Regalim, etc. So a number of Acharim say, though, that at this Pesach Seder, the Bracha Shechiyanu is also going on the unique mitzvahs of the night. You have a mitzvah of matzah, one night a year, to eat a mitzvah of rice to eat matzah, Dalakaisa, Ismara, there are special mitzvahs for that night. So some Acharim say, although it's not mentioned in Mishnah Berurah, but some Acharim say that it's also going on the mitzvah Salayla. So, so you make the one Shechiyanu of the Seder, and a pat is all. Shaz, what about women? Now, women typically make a bracha shechiyanu, married women, at least when they light candles. This is a minhag which is not brought in Shulchan Aruch, but it's a very widespread minhag that married women make a bracha shechiyanu when kabel yantif, lahadlik ner shel yantif, and shechiyanu, and they light candles. So that covers the kedushas hayom, the makabel yantif. Then it covers the kedushas hayom. But would that be going on the other mitzvahs of the Laila? So I've heard an opinion that says yes, but I think many say no, because it's not even the zman of the mitzvah. She couldn't sit down and eat matzah at that point. Matzah, mur. You have to wait for it after it says. She's lighting candles before it says. Well, okay, taka. Not all women are. Some women on Yontif night, when it's only Yontif, it's not Shabbos. Some taka might be lighting after it says. If they're lighting after it says, so then it's not such a problem. Then the shechin could go maybe in everything, especially if they're doing it mamash at the seder table. The matzah is there. The mur, everything's there. But it's no different than her husband making kiddush 5 minutes later. But if she's lighting candles before this man, which many do, and that's recommended to do that so that not to get confused, between Shabbos and Yom Tov. So then it's not this man bechlal for the mitzvah of for the mitzvah halayla. So l'char the shechiyanu doesn't cover that. So she might want to be yosei at the seder, but she cannot repeat shechiyanu. So like this: if a woman is making kiddush, let's take a woman who's making kiddush for herself. For example, let's just say a woman has seder by herself or with other women for whatever situation. She's making kiddush herself. Then she cannot repeat shechiyanu. She said already candle lighting. She cannot repeat, even though she wants it to go on the mitzvah laila, but it's not brought down. It's not brought down Shulchan Aruch to do that, so she can't repeat shechiyanu. But what happens? But often, at many households, even when there is a whole family, husband, wife, everybody says kiddush in many houses on Seder night. That's a common minhag. Even the women. So they have to know still not to say shechiyanu, But at that point, perhaps what they could do is stop after they finish kiddush, and this time kiddush and havdalah. And by the way, if a woman's making kiddush at the seder, she can make havdalah as well, even though women typically don't make havdalah or for themselves, though it's not asum and adin, and if they have no one to do it for them, they're mechuyev to do it. But typically they try to get a man to do it for them. But at the seder, or any time it's Shabbos and Yontif together, if she's making kiddush and havdalah together, Shlomo Zalman says it's okay. It's not a problem. She can say kiddush and havdalah, but she can't repeat shechiyanu. So after she finishes havdalah, and everybody basically at the same point, she could stop and listen to her husband or to whatever other gentleman is at the table, and he could be motzi her in the shechianu, the aspects of shechianu that she's lacking. And in the Sefer Kovetz Halachas, Rav Shmuel Kamenetsky Psakim, he passes she can even answer amen. Meaning to say, if the lady's not making kiddush herself, she's being yotzi with her husband, right? She's listening to kiddush being yotzi, then it's pashut that she can answer amen to shechianu. That Ramosha says in Tshuva, and even some achronim who disagree with Ramosha by other times, but they agree at this Pesach Seder. Rabbi Yashiv, if I recall probably from the Sefer Shvus Yitzchak, for sure she could say amen to the shechianu if she's just listening to kiddush. But Shmuel Kamenetsky says most of it, she made kiddush herself. So she made kiddush and she didn't drink the wine yet. So she has to be careful, doubly careful not to make a hefsek, but she could say amen to the bracha shechianu. So if she have her husband be most with that bracha, you have to coordinate this in advance, obviously. If you're doing this, I don't know, just some of you have this minute, but everybody at the Seder says kiddush together? We got to know, we got a yes, 2 yeses, 3 yeses. Okay, no, okay, 3 and 2? 4 and 2, 4 and 3. My house we also do. A kiddush? No. I grew up that only my father made kiddush and that was it. So in my Siddur, my kiddush. What I do now, realizing that there are many people that like to do it, so what I've done many years, Baruch Hashem, we've had guests at the Seder, for many years. I usually say at the beginning, I'm making kiddush. Anybody who wants to be yotzi can be yotzi. Sometimes there are guests that don't want to say kiddush; they want to be yotzi. Anyway, I'm being motzi. Anyone who wants to be yotzi, and my wife is yotzi with me, and some guests. And then afterwards, anybody else wants to be kiddush because it's that. I allow it. I don't. But okay. So I gave a shir the other day, and I mentioned this, and there was a balabaster, and he said, "Well, women making kiddush." I said, "What is?" By Litvish Gedolim, that never happened. He says, "Okay, I don't know," but I know it is. It is done in some houses. So if that's the way you do it in your house, you want to arrange in advance. Perhaps if you want to follow this and tell your wife or tell the women that they should stop before shechianu. For sure, you should tell them not to say shechianu. That for sure. But you also best to tell them to be yotzi with your shechianu.
Not to say shechianu, but they don't like.
So, but it's hard.
I heard that
you heard what? Sorry.
I heard that some person hold that. They should not say shechianu.
Okay, I think it's going to be a hard sell to get your wife not to say shechianu, and even if you get it, she might forget because she's so. But that could be another answer. And then she'll say it at the Seder. Yeah, okay, that could be another answer. But if that works, that works as well. What's that? Yeah. Okay. That's mine.
If we're saying that she's yotze shechianu when she makes it, so what's the big deal getting someone to be yotzer? Is it really all selfish process? That's why you're trying to get a man to be yotzer.
No, because they do bring down. They do bring down that it's an Indian to have a shechianu on the other mitzvahs, and she doesn't get that posture as a candlelight. Say right? She's yotze the shechianu of kedushas hayom, but the shechianu on the shar mitzvahs halayla l'char she's not getting.
Even this year when you're gonna light candles.
You're right. That's a good point. You're 100% right. This year it's different. Everyone's lighting it. That's Motzei Shabbos. You're very correct. This year it's Motzei Shabbos. Everyone's going to be lighting later, and the second night, of course, you light later. So so this year it's not even the. So l'char
is only about the timing. Like she would light candles usually on
right.
Yom Tov.
She lights early. No, but you're right. You're absolutely right. I overlooked that point. It's Motzei Shabbos. Everyone's going to be lighting candles. So if she lights at the table when all the mitzvahs are there, the heart's no different than the man. So you don't have to make such a big point of it this year. But it's not going for other years. Okay. Thank you very much.